Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Happily Ever Amber podcast. I am your host, Amber, and today we are going to shake it up. It's just me and you, no guest sitting on the other side. I have to be raw and open and vulnerable and candid, and here I am. I am about to do it. I am going to share things that I've never shared before, and that's really scary for me. Here we are, and we are doing it. And that is the theme of this year, is feeling worthy and doing things even though we're scared and we're fearful. I'm going to share my story about chasing my dreams as an actor and how that feels, and the things that I've seen and the things that I've done and where I'm at today. I've been doing this for so long, so I'm so excited to be here with you guys. So grab your coffee, your tea, or if you're listening in your car, turn the volume up, because we're going to dive in. So here we go. Action. Okay, so I'm going to start from the beginning, like the beginning. And this is something I feel like we don't do often enough. We get so caught up in what we're doing in our lives now that going back to the beginning and reflecting is really great. So I might get a little emotional. I might get vulnerable. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and maybe that is why I fell into acting. But so it started when I was about 8 years old. Um, every Friday night, we would go to Blockbuster, and I would remember all of us getting in the car, my mom and my dad and my two sisters, and we would drive to Blockbuster, and I would just go down the aisles. And I would see all these movies and the movie posters, and I just remember it, something felt different. Something, see, I'm getting emotional. I told you guys. Something was lit up in me. And I remember my dad actually always going to the horror section, and my mom was like, "Billy, we're not gonna watch a horror movie." And my dad would always sneak a horror movie in, and we would pick like 2 or 3 movies to watch over the weekend. And I remember going to the checkout, we were so excited. We had these blockbuster movies. We each one had one in our hand, and then we would go to the front and we'd like each grab a piece of candy. I would usually grab M&Ms, and my dad would grab Reese's, and that's really where my love for the arts came in. And it was very strange because I didn't grow up in Hollywood. I had no association to Hollywood. And there was something about that that just felt exciting. And I was a dreamer. Like I remember lying in my bed at night and just thinking about being on the red carpet and thinking about being on set and working with all these wonderful actors like Anne Hathaway from The Princess Diaries, or Julia Roberts, like Aaron Brockovich. I remember my mom used to say, like, that's the kind of stuff I want you to do. If you want to be an actor, you need to do things like strong female roles like that. And those are the movies that really inspired me. I wasn't really into horror because I was kind of like a chicken and I would get scared, but I loved all those movies. Man on Fire, oh my God, Denzel Washington, and then Aaron Brockovich and Pretty Woman, and there's just The Notebook. Oh my God, The Notebook. I know that's like the classic one. Nick Cassavetes directed that, and later in my life, I would meet him, and I was like, "This is my moment." But movies like that, A Walk to Remember. You have to remember, I was like, those '90s movies were my jam. So I just remembered, and for whatever reason, I was like, that's what I want to do. That is what I was wanting to do. I wasn't driven by school. I wasn't great at school. I did well, but it wasn't my just wasn't my thing. It was my spark. And then I got into sports. I was super athletic when I was a kid, and so that brings me to, I loved newspapers. I was like, you guys have to remember, I'm like a grandma, okay? So even when I was younger, I would sit with my dad in the kitchen. I'd remember I'd read like all the cartoons and the comics. And one day I was sitting there and I came across a little tiny article that said, like, come to LA, we're searching for talent. And I was like, oh, okay, how the hell am I going to convince my parents that everything that I've been dreaming, manifesting, is like right here in this little thin piece of paper? So I said to my parents, hey, I would like you guys to take me to LA. And I lived like an hour and a half south of Los Angeles. So it was drivable, it was doable for my parents. And they said, "I really wanna be an actor, and, you guys know this, and here's an opportunity." So, my parents said, "Okay, you know what? If you make the all-star softball team," I remember, I think I was like 8 or 9, "we'll take you." And I was like, "Done, done." I put on my glove, I swung that bat, and I freaking made the team. And, I was super excited, so I held my parents to it. I said, "Okay, you guys said I had to make the team. Now you have to take me to Hollywood." So, I remember driving up, and we were on, like, in front of, like, 350 kids just desperate, and their parents and people coming from all over the country, and I just remember getting up there and talking, and you basically had to show that you were camera friendly, and it's so different today, you guys. It's so weird to think about how the process was, and you could only do commercials. Like, you had to prove yourself when I grew up in Hollywood that you could do commercials and you knew what you're doing, and then you could get a theatrical agent. So, ended up getting a theatrical agent. I did tons of commercials. I'm sure my mom still has the VHS tape somewhere. My first commercial was a Saab car commercial. It was a European commercial. And so that led me to, All My Children, and it's so crazy. I think I did a few other things. I did, like, S Club 7, which was, like, a European, like, Spice Girl-ish. Maybe they were Australian. So I did a TV show for them, um, and then All My Children came, and I got an opportunity to, go to New York when I was 17. I was signed to go play golf at on a scholarship, and I'd already signed with the university, and I remember I booked it, like, months before, I was supposed to go. I was 2 months from graduating high school, and I booked it. Took my finals early, went to my teachers, was like, "Listen, I booked a job. I'm not gonna go to college anymore. I'm going to New York. I'm chasing my dreams. This is it." And so that's I moved to New York. I was in New York for 3 years, got fired. That was I got fired because not because I did anything wrong, but because they wanted to create, like, a interracial relationship, and the actor that they had hired was older than me, so it was a whole thing with ABC, so they ended up getting rid of me, and I was like, that was my first experience of being fired, and that was terrifying and so scary, and I was just so angry and sad and like, "Oh, that's it, my dreams are over, my career's over." So, came back to LA, and most people don't know this, but when you're a soap actor, people don't know you in Hollywood. It's the weirdest thing, unless you're like Susan Lucci, um, or like these mega soap stars, right, that have been around for years and years and years. People wouldn't see me. I couldn't get an agent. People just it's like I would came from another planet of acting. And I was like, "Screw these people. I am going to prove them wrong." Like, just because I'm a actor, which is a very different style of acting, I know I'm not gonna let that, like, stumble me. I'm not stopping here, right? This is I my end goal was not to be a soap star. My end goal was to be sitting on Oprah Winfrey's couch or standing there receiving an Oscar one day. That was really my end goal. That was my North Star. So, I ended up fighting, gosh, getting eventually getting an agent. I did a bunch of small movies. I had an opportunity to work with Denzel Washington, which was amazing. I did like 4 scenes in a movie with him, and, then what happened after that? I ended up booking, what was the first big show? Like, I had done a bunch of movies. Um and then I did Ray Donovan. I got Ray Donovan, and I landed a role. I played Ashley, and that was probably the first, like, big moment for me. Um, Opposite Liev Schreiber, I played, like, his crazy girlfriend, and, I just had such a great experience on that show, working with John Voight. Like, I was like, it was happening. My career was starting to, like, happen, and um then The Master came with Paul Thomas Anderson, and if you're an actor, like, that's the director that, like, everyone wants to work with, and I was able to work alongside so many amazing actors. Rami Malek played my husband, um, Amy Adams, Joaquin Phoenix, and the late and uber talented Philip Seymour Hoffman, who played my father. Um, that was that was where my love for period pieces came in, and from that, I was like, "Okay, I know I'm in Hollywood now. I know I've proven myself. Now I wanna do all the period pieces I can possibly do." So from there, I did Gangster Squad, and, and then Aquarius came, where I played Susan Atkins, and that was probably one of the hardest roles that I played because she was, um, she partook in she murdered Sharon Tate. I don't even know how to else to say that, but she murdered Sharon Tate, and I just dove into history and dressing up every day on set in these crazy clothes and was, like, diving into the history of Charlie Manson and the psychology behind it, and that's from where my love for, um, mental health really I really was like, "Well, why did Susan do this?" So I went back and I studied her early childhood, and that's what I love about acting is you're not just given sides and reading it, like, you're stepping into these roles to play these people, whether they were, real people or you're stepping into someone other than yourself. And I think at this point, I really realized in my life that I have a really hard time with who I am, figuring out who I was, because I was always used to stepping into another person's shoes, and I felt really comfortable doing that. And maybe some of that was not being able to be heard or seen in the way I needed to as a child. Um, but for whatever reason, it worked to my benefit, and I'm super happy and grateful for that. And I felt really comfortable um, playing other people. And I think sometimes, like even now, talking about it, it's like this is this is being open and vulnerable, and that could be really scary sometimes. But I think our world needs more of that. I think our world definitely needs more people um, taking off the mask, sharing their journey, because especially in Hollywood, um, it's not easy. It's not as glamorous as it seems. I have had a roller coaster of a career. Um, I have worked alongside the I can't even imagine working along these people. I mean, it's been like I've been so lucky and so fortunate, and I've learned so much from so many great artists. I've worked with some of the best acting coaches, and um, it's it's been tough. And I think this is in life. You get a lot of no's, and I still get a lot of no's. And even the best of the best, like the superstars, the celebrities. Now, celebrities, not like today's celebrity, because everyone's a freaking celebrity today. Everyone thinks they're a celebrity. Like back in the day, the people that used to sit on Oprah Winfrey's couch and get interviewed, right? They even hear no's. So that's something you have to remember. And you just have to keep going. Because for me, there was never a plan B. And still to this day, I'm like, I need to be a little more responsible because I have 2 children that I had to take care of. But even when I feel down and I feel like quitting, which has been 1,000 times, sometimes it's just about walking away, remembering why you love what you started, why going back down to the foundation of who you are, going back into your inner child and asking those really deep and hard questions, and then mustering up the strength to keep moving forward because it's scary. It's not easy. Okay, life has been super busy lately. Riley does soccer now. I'm super excited. This is like 5 o'clock every day. We have soccer practice, and then we have games, and everyone's running around, and London's doing her thing and doing tutoring. And we just have a lot going on in this house. And I am so happy to be able to make dinner so quickly without having to think about going to the grocery store because honestly, it stresses me out. It's just one more thing to do. But there's a solution for that, and it is called Green Chef. Okay, guys, take back time in the kitchen with dinner in 30 minutes and lunch in 10. Each week, choose from 80 plus flavor packed options, including new calorie smart recipes and wellness bundles. Green Chef offers unique Farm fresh ingredients like figs, yum, dates, oh my gosh, I love dates, and artichokes, sustainably sourced seafood, and so much more. You could build healthy habits with the easy way with nutritious recipes from the #1 meal kit for clean eating. Okay, so with Riley playing sports, London is growing into this beautiful young woman. It is so important not only for me to get my kids in the kitchen and help me cook and teach them how to cook, but also teach them about healthy eating. So that is why Green Chef is my go-to meals. Green Chef is now owned by HelloFresh, and with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, there's something for everyone. I love switching between the brands, and now my listeners can enjoy both brands at a discount with me. Go to greenchef.com/60HEA and use code 60HEA to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. Go to greenchef.com/60HEA and use code 60HEA to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. Okay, so now it's story time. Oh my gosh. So through the years of acting and being on set, I have some pretty wild and crazy stories that I've never shared before. So here I am. I'm doing it. I'm going to share them with you. Um, so I remember on when I first booked All My Children. Now, if you ever seen a soap opera, you know that there's never any reruns and the scenes are super long. And I am just fresh from high school. I'm 17, living in New York. I get my scenes, my thick. I mean, in the movie world, you film maybe like 3 or 4 scenes a day, right? Television is a little bit more, but in soaps, you have like 30 pages a day, okay? And you have to memorize all that. This is something that I was not prepared for. So I remember my first major meltdown on set. I was working with David Canary and we had a scene and you repeat. So because there's reruns or no reruns, you repeat a lot of the things to keep the audience very engaged with the storyline. I could not keep those freaking words in my mind, my brain, my life depended on it. And finally one day I just started crying. I was like, I called my mom from my dressing room. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't remember my lines and they're going to fire me. And like, oh my God. And my mom's like, Amber, relax. So I remember the executive producer called me into her office and she's like, Amber, this is a muscle. And I really equate going to do the soap as like my college experience of being at an acting school. That was like my college for acting. I was also punched in the face. So this one, I was doing a horror movie, okay? And a lot of horror movies are filmed like you do all night shoots, and that is the worst for me. I'm a monster during night shoots because I'm like a grandma and I go to bed at 8 o'clock with my children. So we're doing a scene and it's an action scene and we had a stunt person come and teach the guy how to punch me, right? He was like turning into a monster or something. I don't remember exactly. But unfortunately, this actor and project will remain nameless. He was drinking on set and he ended up missing and going forward. So when you punch in a scene, you know, it's the timing of it. And he went forward too much and he punched me and I flew to the ground. And I remember getting up and of course he punched my nose. And so my eyes look like I'm like just watering. And I was like, I told the director, if you don't use that scene or that take, we're going to have big issues. I'm like, that couldn't have been more perfect. So that was something that was like, I've never been punched by anyone, but I was punched on that set and that was really exciting. And of course the master, we'll go with the master. The master was so fun because one of the first things that we had to do on the master, it was full frontal nudity. So in order to, agree to take on this role, you had to agree to full frontal nudity and it happened. And we had full on merkins and we were a cast of, I think in the scene, there was probably like 40 or 60 people. We were naked. And when they said, everyone take off your robe, we did. And there we were, 30 actors standing there head to toe. Some you knew, someone you didn't knew. And there was an entire scene where we were all nude. And I think I'm sitting on the piano at that point. And then I had a scene, I think, with Joaquin Phoenix where I'm naked. So anyways, crazy stories, and that's just part of acting, and I love, reminiscing with you guys and letting you guys in on some of these insane things that I've, had to encounter on set. Now that I just laid it all out there, told you guys some crazy stories, let me know. I told you guys a few of, like, the ones that came to mind, but once you start going down memory lane, of course, you start thinking of more and more other stories. So I have a few more. Let me know if you guys want to hear it, and I'll do another episode and share some of those other juicy stories with you guys. So next up, we have some questions from listeners and people on my Instagram, and I want to dive into those. So here we go. The first one is, what was your audition like for you? That's a great question, by the way. Because I've had a lot of auditions, but sometimes you don't always remember. But this particular one, I do because I was doing um, I was doing an animated movie, and my agent called me and was like, "Hey, are you gonna make it to, that audition for, Sarah Gamble's show, You?" And I was like, "Honestly, I haven't even" like, I looked over the script, like, once or twice. I love Sarah. I worked with Sarah on Aquarius. She was one of the producers, one of the creators of the show. So I was like, "Of course I'm gonna show up for her because I love her so much." And same with the casting director, that you get to know people for, like, over the years. So I showed up, I prepared in my car, and I read it like 5 times, and I was like, oh my gosh, this chick Candace is my alter ego. She's like a rock star, and like in the first season, and then she becomes a little like crazy when it comes to Joe. But I found so much strength in her, and I swear to God, the universe, like, puts characters in my life that I need to become, right? That, like, I need to pull out of me, whether it's strength or courage or vulnerability or whatever it is, and this was definitely that character. And then next thing you know, I ended up booking it, and then I think, like, a week later, I was on my way to New York. It was, like, the craziest thing. So, that was my audition process for You. Whereas it was very long for the master. It was like I didn't hear back for like 3 months, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't get it." And the next thing you know, they're like, "Hey, you booked it." And I was like, "What role again?" Of course, it was the master. Okay, next question. Um, did you dye your hair red for the role? If so, how long did you keep it red? I don't know what it is. I always work as a redhead. And I literally question myself every day, like, You should just go red, like, permanently." And I asked my kids, and they're like, "No, don't go red." I'm like, "Okay." But, I tend to always work as a redhead or, like, a strawberry blonde, and it's fun. You know why? Because it actually helps me get into character. Anything that you could change physically about yourself just kinda gets you out of your day-to-day life of who you are. Like, I take the mom hat off, the entrepreneur hat, now podcaster hat, and I, like, get to transform myself, so I can't wait to dye my hair red again. What is your dream role? Oh, I was talking to my girlfriend yesterday about this, and I was like, "You know what I'd like to play? I would like to play the president's wife, but like a period piece of the president's wife." So, today, I'm putting it out there in the universe, some audition, it's gonna be a period piece, and I get to play the president's wife. I don't know what era, maybe like 40s. That would be fun. That would be my dream role, but I have lots of dream roles. As an actor, you do. What was it like working with Liev? I really loved working with Liev. He was so fantastic and so great, and with just the dynamic, even becoming like my character, and him becoming Ray. I'm a huge fan of him. He's fucking a brilliant actor. When did you know your acting career or your acting could be your career? I think so when I came up for my first audition, I ended up running they were filming something, and I ran into Diane Keaton, and I remember getting out of the car and, like, running to her with my resume. I had serious, like I was, like, super brave. I don't know if I'd do that now, but I ran up to her and I was like, "I love you. You're so good. Here's my resume." And I really looked at her and her career at that point, and I don't even know what movie she was filming at the time, but I realized, like, yeah, this could really happen. I could really make this happen if I wanted to. Like, this is not just a dream. This is going to be a reality if I really work hard at it. And so I think for me, that's when I was like, I know what I want. I know my North Star, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to achieve it. So, okay. Those are a few questions. Whew! Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I actually had a lot of fun talking to you guys about all these amazing things, and it actually is nice and it feels good. So, just like in my industry or in life, it's about riding the waves, right? There's going to be highs and there's going to be lows and there's going to be huge celebrations. And there's going to be so many rejections, right? That's just life. And then when you have those wins, life is going to knock you on your ass again. And it's just about getting up and keep moving forward, putting one foot in front of the other. So if you have a freaking dream, something that keeps you up at night, something that you've been thinking about since you were a teenager, even kid, or it doesn't matter how old you are, just do it. Just start, right? It's about just starting. Don't let fear hold you back. Just look fear in the eye and do it anyways. So, thank you again for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe. We are also on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Please let me know what other future episodes you guys might want to hear. And thank you so much for tuning in today. That is an official wrap.
Yay Networks.